As you watch the screen, your heart begins to beat faster. There's a fluttering in the pit of your stomach. Your throat is dry. Your palms damp. Suddenly a chill runs down your spine. You clutch the person next to you. You tell yourself, it's only a movie. It's only a movie. But sooner or later, it's time to go home.
Welcome to Film Strip. I'm Jay.
And I'm Brian.
And we're reviewing Halloween Ends, starring Jamie Lee Curtis, Rowan Campbell, Andy Matichak, Will Patton, and James Jude Courtney. Directed by David Gordon Green, in theaters and on Peacock in October of 2022. As we're recording this here, this one was done on a $33 million budget, they're saying. And box office wise, early on, it's made about 82.5 million. We'll probably make a little more. Don't ever know the full numbers on that. But yeah, the end of the Blumhouse, David Gordon Green, Danny McBride requel trilogy is here, Brian. And just going in, like, what were your expectations going in for this?
Well, it's supposed to be the quote unquote end of the Michael Myers series, right? So I expected we were going to get us a Michael and Laurie Strode final battle, like build up to that.
Right.
And while we got the final battle, we really didn't get much of a build-up, did we?
We got a lot of stuff. John Carpenter tried to give us all a heads up about this. This is a direct quote. Well, it's Halloween and it ends, he said with a chuckle. You'll see it's a departure from the others. It's interesting. And then he went on to say, like, it's like a play almost. And I don't know, like, there were all kinds of things out there. I saw the initial trailer that came out, like the long form one, and I was like, cool, I don't want to know anything else. And then somewhere along the way, I just was like, no, I must know more. So I dug around the internet and read all kinds of different options that were out there. There were multiple test screenings and stuff. And there was little leaks here and there, but about 2 weeks before it really premiered, most of like the broad strokes came out. But the big thing that kept coming back was, like, if you go into this movie expecting it to be the emphasis or the inspiration to be Halloween, you're thinking of the wrong John Carpenter movie. You should think Christine. And I thought, now I like Christine. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. It's fine. You can go back in the archives. Nick and I reviewed that years ago. It's an interesting, like, Stephen King kind of thing, but I'm like, that's a different aesthetic than, what I maybe would have gone for. And all I can think of, man, is just get ready to get weird. Because from the opening minute of this movie, I was like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. But we'll get into that. I did do what I did last time, man. I didn't intend to see this in theaters or anything. I was going to do the Peacock. I woke up really early on Friday morning. I think it dropped actually Thursday night before, but I was busy doing other stuff. I ended up watching it before work on Friday and then coming home and watching it again that weekend. And I actually got a third watch in on it before you and I had a chance to record. So I'm glad we had a couple of weeks to let it marinate a little bit here. But I don't know that I saw a different movie any of the other two times I saw it. I pretty well got it the first time.
One thing you said in that opening, this made 82 million already at the box office, which I gotta say, that's pretty impressive when you give it away for free on Peacock right out of the gate.
Well, it's for the $4.99 subscribers, but you could get like a year of Peacock for $13 if you just subscribe. So
yeah, even still $4.99, big deal. You're not paying for Peacock to get Halloween Ends, right?
No,
that's like an added bonus. For me, I'm paying for it to get the WWE Network, right?
Yeah, same.
We know that, but 82 million at the box office, I gotta say, pretty good for giving it away for free, basically.
Yeah. I mean, and the last one though made a ton of money too early on, and they were giving that one away for free too. I mean, like we've talked about on several podcasts before, horror fans are a built-in audience, man. We're going to go to a theater, and no lie, like I wouldn't mind seeing this in a theater. I might wait and, when I'm just bored or something to catch a matinee or something like that, just to see, because I think it might be a different experience than that big of a screen. But I like a lot of people during the pandemic, I have a really big TV. I kind of got used to watching stuff at home, and I'm like, hey, if you wait 60 days or less now, you can pretty much see anything you want. And and I watched the last one. I never saw Halloween Kills in a theater, so I didn't feel like I missed anything with that. And going into this, like I just expected, like, can we actually wrap it up? Because I'll say this now, like, I think the Akkads will make Halloween movies until there are no more Akkads on the earth. This is their thing. The Laurie Strode, Michael Myers story, and particularly Jamie Lee Curtis's involvement, I think this is it. And I know she said that before, but I do think I believe her more now, mostly because she's older and doesn't have to do this anymore. And I don't think she wants to anymore. And it took something very special in terms of a pitch to get her back out to do this again. And we can talk about how well it all worked and piecing these three together. But I'll say this about the David Gordon Green trilogy, if you will. He gave us a different movie every time. And I don't know that that's a good thing necessarily, but it's a different movie. I mean, it is not, it is definitely a subvert your expectations kind of flick. And I don't know, man, like I said, just going in, I was like, I just want to get to somewhere, because the way they left us hanging at the end of that last one was, it was like a WWE promo. They were walking down opposite halls heading toward each other. And I was like, finally, the big blow off. Right. And we kind of get there, but we get there in a roundabout way.
Well, here's the thing that bugs me about this movie, and we'll get more into it as we go along, but they had the perfect opportunity to set up the future of Halloween in this movie.
Yeah.
And they blew it.
Yep.
They blew it. Like, and we'll talk about it, but
I
couldn't believe it when they got there, and I'm like, what the hell? Okay. Anyway.
Well, I mean, we'll get into all of that. I think we should go ahead now. Spoilers hot, folks, obviously, for a movie that's been out a couple weeks now. If you haven't seen this, I mean, you're going to go ahead and watch it. Otherwise, if you're listening to the show, just go ahead and listen on, because we're going to blow the whole thing right now in the plot summary. So it's 1 year after Michael Myers disappeared following a rampage through the streets of Haddonfield. And Corey Cunningham, a likable but kind of awkward 21-year-old, takes a kid-sitting gig in town on Halloween night, obviously. And things go horribly awry when Jeremy, the kid, locks Corey in the attic. And as Corey kicks open the door, Jeremy struck and plummets downstairs, killing him in front of his parents who just walked in the house. Flash forward 3 years later from that, and we see that Michael is still gone, but Haddonfield still bears the scars. Except for Laurie Strode, who's sobered up, bought a house, cut her hair, and she now shares that with her grown granddaughter, Allison, who works as a nurse at the hospital, and even still flirts in the grocery store with Deputy Hawkins, who's learned to play guitar from the pawn shop and is learning Japanese from Rosetta Stone. Corey was exonerated in court, but of course is a town pariah, only finding work at his uncle's scrapyard as a salvager and mechanic. Laurie takes advantage of a chance meeting with Corey to introduce him to Allison, and the two damaged lovebirds form a quick bond. Very quick, I might add. Though Laurie changes her mind about Corey, sensing a deep darkness within, or seeing him behind some bushes, or I don't know, just being a weird grandma. But Allison totally ignores this and all manner of common sense to continue this affair. And after being picked on by high school band bullies, this 24-year-old is thrown over a bridge and survives the fall and is dragged into a sewer by none other than Michael Myers, who shows up 40 minutes into a rather mundane Lifetime movie to finally be here. The two share a long stare into each other's eyes or something, and it unlocks something in Corey, or I don't know, there's a transfer. Maybe we have a Halloween 4 situation. We'll get into it. But he gets into a fight with a vagrant and kills him, and then he sleeps with Allison, and then he goes back to the sewer and eventually beats up Michael and steals his mask and goes his own killing spree, takes out the high school bullies and his domineering mother. And when he comes for Laurie Strode, she's ready, and she shoots him. But Corey turns the tables on her and stabs himself in the neck, making it look like she killed him as Allison walks in and then right back out of the house. Michael, of course, shows up, retrieves his mask, finishes off Corey, and goes after Laurie. And after a brief fight, Laurie pins Michael to the kitchen island with a couple of knives and the refrigerator. Then she unmasks him, curses at him a little bit, slits his throat, but in his dying moments, he frees his hand and starts to choke her to death. But Allison reappears almost magically and subdues Michael's arm as Laurie cuts his wrist, so he bleeds out in the kitchen and dies just as the cops arrive. Laurie, Allison, and pretty much everybody left in town form some sort of weird procession with Michael's body strapped to the hood of Allison's beat-up station wagon. Laurie throws his body into an industrial crusher like a paper shredder, and he's destroyed for good, I guess, or turned into goo or something. Allison leaves town, finally, and Laurie starts decorating for Thanksgiving as Hawkins stops by to give her some vegetables, hang out on the porch, and credits roll. And, Brian, that's Halloween Ends.
Yeah, that is Halloween Ends. And, wow.
There's another trilogy that came out a few years ago that I felt like gave us 3 wildly different movies. And it's the Star Wars trilogy from Disney. And you had the one that was basically like nostalgia repeated, and everybody kind of liked it. Okay, and then you had the one in the middle. It was very different, and we let a director do what he wanted, and it created all kinds of controversy, and either you loved it or you hated it, and yada yada. And then we came back for the third one, and we just felt like, let's just wrap it all up in a matter of conveniences. And in the end, it was just like, and I watched this, and when it was over, Brian, my first thought was like, well, okay. and I've seen a lot of end of Halloween movies at this point. I mean, come on, we've seen this dude burned. I've seen his head friggin' chopped off. I've seen him, rolled into a morgue and electrocuted by Busta Rhymes. I've seen him shot to death by some cops. I've seen him shot in the face by Lori. I mean, at this point, Michael's died a lot of ways. So I don't need it to live up to anything. I just need it to be at least be good and continuous. And as I said in the beginning, I'll give David Gordon Green one thing. If his intention was to make 3 very different movies about basically the same thing, congratulations, you hit that mark.
Yes, you did. And okay, if you were to take this movie and take it out of the Halloween franchise and have it as a standalone movie, not bad.
That's all right.
Yeah, it's not bad. But putting the Halloween label on it and seeing Michael Myers for 15 to 20 minutes of screen time, the whole movie, doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah,
if you're focusing on the end of Halloween, you should focus on the main character.
Yeah, the Friday the 13th series did this twice, and it didn't really work either time. They did it in part 5 when it was a Roy killer, the EMT killer, and they did it in part 9 when Jason went to hell, and that didn't exactly work either. It's weird, and those are kind of fun rides. Halloween's done this before, too. They did this in Halloween 3, and Michael Myers is just kind of in the background on television there. That that's the real world or whatever. And I know people have reevaluated Halloween 3 and love it now. I've always had a kind of a kitschy spot for that movie. It's dumb as hell, but it's a lot of fun to watch. It's just goofy, but it's not a Halloween movie per se. At least not it's not a Michael Myers movie. Let me say it is a Halloween movie. It's not a Michael Myers movie. And it's almost like, and I mean, they even used the Halloween 3 font in this, and that's on purpose. Like David Gordon Green said, yeah, we wanted to do that. We used the Halloween 1 font in 2018. We used the 2 font in the Halloween Kills, and we would use the 3rd one. We want to have a little fun with that. I'm like, okay, cool. But it's also the very opening bit, man, when the Universal logo is coming on and that surf rock guitar starts. And I'm going, what are we doing? And I'm like, what is this? And I'm not going to lie that I did not love this song. I love surf rock from the late 50s and 60s. There's just something about it. And there was a specific moment in time when you could write a song like this and it would get airplay. And how they dug that out of the dustbin of the 45s, I do not know. But it is all over like charts and stuff now, man. Do you know anything about this Midnight Monster Hop song? Because you're the music guy.
No, not a ton, but I do know that it's been used in multiple horror films. So it's something that horror films apparently really like to use. It definitely doesn't seem like a horror song with the guitars and everything else. But no, I think I've heard it before, but it's not a song that I'm overly familiar with.
I knew I had heard it.
Odd way to start.
Yeah. You know what it gave me the immediate thought of? I'm like, oh, this is something Rob Zombie would have done.
Yes.
Exactly. It really, and it's not the last time I'll say that, by the way, in this movie. I'm like, that's interesting. It's a real interesting way to start, because I knew we were going to jump forward in time. They had already copped to that. Like, we can't keep doing the one night. The original pitch, by the way, was it was going to be 3 movies of one night. And they realized very quickly, we can't do that. We've already screwed that up. So we're not going to do that. So we're going to time jump, and we're going to get us past COVID and all that. And we're not going to mention that there were early, things on Reddit, a year or so ago. People were like, oh God, they're going to talk about COVID in this movie. I'm like, no, they're not if they're smart. Like, nobody wants to relive that. Right. So they just had to get us past all that so that we could go back to quote normal life and society without having to do all that, which you don't need to anyway. It's a friggin' movie, but whatever. So we're going to get past that, but they jump us right into this, and this kid's rolling up on this bike or whatever. And I'm like, we're setting a very different tone for this movie. And my first thought was like, who the hell is this? And who are these people? And where did this house come from in Haddonfield?
Again, I was okay with the start with the babysitting situation and all that, because I mean, let's face it, Halloween is built on Michael Myers killing babysitters, right?
Right.
So it would make total sense to do a scene like this, but I was completely expecting Michael Myers to show up and not what actually happened in the film. And that would have been fine. And, this movie of the three is by far the goriest of them, which I think you're referencing with the Rob Zombie piece.
You think so? Because I think that Halloween Kills is pretty gory.
It's brutal, but it's not as bloody and gory as this one, I don't think. Right? There's a lot of brutality in Halloween Kills, but this is like blood and guts and everything just to be there in this one. So to me, this is a little more gory of a film than the other two were. Definitely the first one.
There is a lot more viciousness to the kills in this one. I agree. And even in Halloween Kills was pretty much, let's make Michael like Franken Jason or whatever and just let him go insane on people. And look, when he breaks out of that house with the fire behind him and whacks all those firefighters, like that is pretty badass. Like it's right. I mean, but like I rewatched both of the other movies, leading up to this, and more or less, like I feel about the same about 2018 as I always have. Like the first half of that movie is awesome, and then it just kind of mashes together into a weird ending because they realized they were going to make more, and I think they kind of screwed themselves with that. Halloween Kills, I've found, is a really enjoyable watch if you pay no attention to any of the dialogue. So when people are talking, like I'm paying no mind to it at all. I'm screwing around with my fantasy lineup, and when Michael's on the prowl or whatever, I'm just watching that because it's like watching somebody do a gauntlet match or something. He's just blowing through people. So like that's kind of it's fun in sort of that same like Jason mows through people kind of way, which never really was Michael's motif, but okay, we'll do that. Now this one though, again, like we're starting out with a very different person, and I'm with you. I thought, are we gonna like flip the babysitter kill here and kill the guy? Like that would be different. That would be cool. Yeah. And what we get is like, I mean, they're watching The Thing, which is a movie I love and I know you hate, but I like that one. And I'm like, okay, we'll have a little fun, with that. But this kid, like in the first movie, that little boy that was going back and forth with the babysitter girl, like they were kind of, smashing on each other, but you could tell like they were just having fun with each other. This little kid's a little monster. He hates Corey, and Corey's a jerk too. I'm like, oh man, I don't like either of these people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't think they set Corey up to be a jerk right away because he's watching the naughty. He's doing everything that mom said not to do.
Yeah, exactly. Don't let him eat candy no more. We're watching movies. This is exactly
here's candy. Here's a bad movie, a horror movie. I mean, it does the right thing and turns it off at the end. But then they set it all up perfectly. Like the door's open, the kid's missing, everything's going on. It's like perfect. Michael's going to come in here and we're going to get going right off the bat. And then it doesn't happen. Instead, we get the kid getting clocked in the face by the door and heading over the top of the balcony down to his death. It's like, what? I didn't expect that.
That is like some Stephen King shit is what that is. And that's where I immediately thought, I was like, oh, that's what they mean. Like we're going to really flip this around. And there's a whole bit with the mom telling Corey about ever since the Michael Myers situation, Jeremy's been wetting the bed. He's having nightmares and stuff. And like that pays off to nothing. I'm like, why did you need any of that? You don't need that. It's
just
clear everyone.
You were in Halloween.
I mean, yeah, maybe to remind everybody, by the way, this is a Halloween movie. You're not going to see the main guy for a long time. So trust us, he's around. But yeah, it's so weird. And
it's not going trick-or-treating. Like they talk about setting the candy out for the trick-or-treaters. Why does this kid not get to go trick-or-treating?
I'm like, right? Did he get to go earlier and they brought him in? They're going to their same swinger party? Like what's going on? Like the parents in Haddonfield suck. Like that's just clear. But totally. I mean, like Allison's parents may have been the most normal people there. And they're both dead. So, but I mean, yeah, it's such a I don't know, again, a jarring way to start us into this. And then we get into our main Halloween theme and you've got pumpkins kind of busting through pumpkins. And at this point, I'm like, I'm kind of bored with y'all's, CGI pumpkin intros. They all look kind of foamy and fake and kind of Muppety. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't care. I know. I'm like, yeah. But I'll say this now, and I'll try to point it out as we go through too. I do think Carpenter once again and his crew, Cody Carpenter's son and Daniel Davies, their partner, really hit it out of the park on the soundtrack again. Like it's 3 in a row. Like it's some of his best work ever.
I totally agree. I think 2018 Halloween soundtrack is the best one of all of them. As far as a coherent full soundtrack goes. The iconic songs are the iconic song, but
Yeah.
a full soundtrack, it's phenomenal. I like the Halloween Kills soundtrack. I'm looking forward to listening to the Halloween Ends soundtrack. I'm waiting until it comes out on vinyl because I want to get it. So I'm not going to listen to it streaming. I'm just waiting until it comes out in January for that. But they do a great job. It really does set a good tone for the movie itself, and really gets you pumped for it.
Yeah, I mean, in 2018, like when it kicked in, I mean, it was the main theme redone for 2018, so it was thumping. It was like, oh man. And then Halloween Kills was this quiet, kind of contemplative, scary piano shit.
Yeah.
And then this one was just sort of like in between that. It's kind of not quite the acoustic version, but not quite the full band either. We got kind of in between. It's sort of that time Bruce Springsteen was on Unplugged and he kind of halfway did it. I mean, it sort of felt the same way. And I was like, okay, I'm game for this, but we go forward ahead again. Mm-hmm. And I know why they did this. I mean, again, I love the narrative ideas. One, Andi Matichak's clearly 30, so we can't act like she's 18 anymore. Plus, let's not let her have 18-year-old problems anymore. Let's let her kind of get older. We'll let Laurie get over it, and we'll give a little bit of voiceover of what's been going on for the last 4 years. And while I think Laurie Strode may be the worst narrative writer I've ever listened to read their own stuff, I do like what she's spinning out here is that as things happened in Haddonfield, people die, get killed, whatever. There was always this idea of like, was it him? No, he doesn't use guns. No, he doesn't hang people.
Correct.
He doesn't do this. Like there was just this sort of idea. And that's something Carpenter had always pitched at and talked about and messed with, was like, what would a town be like in the wake of and if you go count it up, it's something like 60 people get murdered in one night or something. So like you wouldn't, like the town will close, you wouldn't recover. Yeah. But like, imagine if you did, like how could you ever go on from that? And they're going to play with that a lot in this movie. Different effect.
What is wrong with Haddonfield that so many people die?
Well, because they got
not Michael Myers,
right? Yeah, but all this stuff is going on. I'm like, you need
New York City level, Chicago
dude. Yeah,
level
like that.
Death,
but
right?
and that's what put me off on it, Brian. Because I'm like, this is supposed to be the Midwest. Yeah. All right, like this is supposed to be
until Michael Myers comes in, right?
Right, and what he did was supposed to be so outrageous all those years ago that it's like the town legend, and now it's like you've created this Stephen King town where it's the town in it's Derry where all this bad stuff happens. And I'm like, I mean, it's a bold choice to make Haddonfield a character in the series because it never really has been. And they've done it twice. Last time they tried to do it with like the angry mob thing, which became a joke. Evil dies tonight until it doesn't, and then now this. And I'm like, I don't know that was the choice I maybe wanted them to make or needed them to make. And I don't know that they fully commit to it.
It would have been much better if nothing had happened for 4 years other than Corey killing the kid, right? And that was an accident, right? That wasn't right. It's not like he was trying to kill the kid, right? So it would have been much better off if nothing else happened and we weren't chasing Michael Myers and Laurie Strode wasn't at every freaking crime scene like she can just walk in on there.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. What is she doing? Like she just rolls up like, was it him? I'm like, what are you doing?
This doesn't look like his MO. I'll leave you to it.
You know what she is? She's playing the Mike Hamlin character though from It, the librarian guy who like kept it going. I'm like, that's
Yeah,
that's exactly what
she shows up in every damn crime scene.
I know,
like she's right there behind the police lines, watching everything, looking at everything. Did they hire her on to look at the crimes to see what's going on? I don't get it.
Right. Also, why is Deputy Hawkins still working after one, all these years, and two, he got stabbed in the friggin' neck? I think it's time to get a desk job, bro. Like, I think they would keep you in the station. Like, you would not be out investigating.
Once cop, always cop, bro.
I get in Haddonfield.
I don't know
he's
why.
Not in New York, in spite of where some of these people's accents come from later. But yeah,
power. It's all about the power.
I mean, it must be right. but I mean, yeah, Haddonfield in the wake of all that destruction is an interesting idea. And I will say again, this movie, like all the other ones in the David Gordon Green trilogy, the setup is always really intriguing. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm going. Okay, this is different, but cool. Yeah, let's go for the ride. Give me something I didn't expect. Subvert. I'm down for that. Let's have some fun with it. Can you pay it off? We'll get there. But yeah, I mean, they're going through all this stuff. Lindsay Wallace is still hanging around, which I understand that they did this with Kyle Richards because, you know, she had left acting and had become like a reality star, Real Housewives of Orange County, all that. She's part of that great meme that has just run its course on the internet with the blonde lady who looks like Goldie Hawn's daughter, Kate Hudson, yelling at like the cat or whatever because they replaced but they replay that in this movie too, and the mom goes off on Corey. Like they do that as a joke. And I'm like, but they wrote her a bigger part because they realized how good she was last time. She was actually really good in Halloween Kills, so they wrote her back into this. She wasn't even going to be in this, but like for a second. And I'm like, okay, so I guess Lindsay owns the bar now. Sure, whatever. She's reading tarot cards. Yeah, why not? But everybody's kind of moved on, right? Allison's gone to nursing school. So, let me ask you this right now: was there anything about Allison in that last movie that told you this is the kind of girl that's going to hang around her hometown? Or was she going to go to like Loyola and get the hell out? Like, Gorman was gone.
She was the one who didn't want to be there in the first place, right?
She was the National Honor Society girl. Like, I mean, I realized she had a lot of bad stuff happen to her. Fair. But why would you hang around? Like, you would be gone, right?
Well, I think about it too. In the previous film, Mom had always told her that Grandma's a nut job, right? And then they finally come to hang out or whatever they were doing. And she finds out everything's correct. And now all this training is paid off for her mom, and her mom ends up dying. So why does she stick around? Is she worried about Grandma? I don't understand it either. You would have thought she would have left. She's obviously kind of gone down a dark path, I guess.
She's doing what Scout Taylor Compton did a better job of in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, which is go off the deep end after a traumatic experience, which is totally understandable. And I've really come to appreciate that performance. That's not a perfect movie. It's got its problems, no doubt. But she is doing things. She is giving a performance. There is a story in that movie that is dark. And they want us to do that same thing with this one. And I like Andi Matichak, but she does not pull that off. And I don't think she gets to either. They really short shrift her bad in this movie. And it's kind of a shame because you talk about like they had the perfect handoff. They had the perfect handoff 2 movies ago. They should have handed this over to her and maybe even Judy Greer for a little bit, but you know, we didn't go that route. So I felt like I didn't understand why she was here and why she allowed people to pick on her, and also her whole attitude. You know, that's the other thing that felt Rob Zombie. Like, people curse in horror movies, that's no big deal. It doesn't bother me or anything. I don't care. But like, there's certain characters, like when they say stuff, it's like, that's not how you talk, you know? And Allison's like dropping F-bombs and just being real kind of, I don't know, not the way she spoke in the last 2 movies at all. Right. It's like a different person. And I'm like, who are you?
Well, again, she's gone down a dark path. And it's almost like she's looking for someone to, how do you want to say it? Treat her
rebound
like
in the darkness with? Yeah.
Like treat her like shit. Like treat her like a piece of crap that she feels like she is. I don't know. That's the vibe I kind of got, is that she's into Corey because he's bad and bad for her, and he'll, treat her like crap.
Right. Well, I mean, look, like she apparently has no friends except the one work friend who's supposed to be the quote slutty nurse, but she wears more clothes getting in the shower than she had on beforehand. So whatever. Like, what? I mean, that character's funny. Like, I don't know who that woman is.
Head nurse job.
I've never even seen her in anything, but I'm gonna tell you, she's funny. Like, she's got comic gold. Like, they need to put her in stuff. Like, she is funny, because I think Alice is just like, you talk too much or whatever. She's like, yeah, I know, but I just get all off in this shit. Like, she's so dizzy, but she's funny. And I'm like, man, you know what kind of movie you're in. I was like, nobody else apparently does, but you got it. I don't know who you are, but good for you. But yeah, I mean, she has no life. She lives with her grandmother, which is not necessarily the worst thing on earth. That's a pretty sweet house. But I want to know, like, okay, Laurie burned her life to the ground, literally, in the last 2 movies. Also was not exactly the bastion of financial responsibility necessarily. So where's she got this money to buy that house with? All right, I don't care if it is middle America. That's going to cost some dough. And Allison's parents look like they were doing pretty good. She's got the insurance money. Blow town and go to Hawaii, girlfriend. Like, what are you doing? Like, that didn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, I mean, we're never gonna know how she got her money or anything like that. Maybe she did some talks about the whole Michael Myers situation across the country and made thousands of dollars each time she went. Who knows?
Well, she's writing a book. So I'm like,
Well,
did she
is
get like a
writing a
book
book.
advance? Yeah,
That
she got like
could
a
be.
book advance.
Never
Maybe
know.
that's it. But that's the thing, though. You notice what we're talking about in this movie is everything but what makes
Everything but
Halloween
Michael
Halloween. And we'll do that for 40 minutes because it takes
Yeah.
40 minutes for him to show up, which has got to be a world record. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so strange. But we catch up with everybody. Corey is still in town. Now, you talk about somebody else. Like, I understand why his options may have been limited, but bro, once you get exonerated, like, you get out of Dodge. Like, you're not on probation. You got to go. Like, he's got to get out. Why is he still here?
Well, he was young at the time, right? I don't.
It was 21 when that
21?
happened. Yeah.
Was not when he was babysitting.
Yeah, because he says, I'm a 21-year-old. He says that to the kid. I caught that every time I've watched it. And I, there's a whole thing about in that first movie, Michael Myers is 21 years old. That's why he's going on that court date. It's all that. And the parallels that's not by accident. Corey's supposed to be 21. He's pretty much Allison's age. He's a little bit older, actually.
Yeah.
But I'm like, dude, why are you still here? Like, you're not wanted at home. You need to go.
That's a good question. Maybe he just didn't feel like he could escape the stigma that he has, or I don't know. You think you could roll out into California or something where nobody knows who the hell you are and start over?
Bro, move to South Georgia. Nobody will know who you are. Like, nobody cares. They don't pay attention like that. And by the way, what is with all the New York accents in this town? His mother, his uncle, the band kids, they're in a different movie, Brian. They are not in a Halloween movie.
I couldn't tell you that. I don't know. Where's Haddonfield again?
Illinois, middle of America.
Illinois. Yeah, I was going to say. I can't answer that question. I don't know why they all have New York accents.
I know. I mean, like, if they talk like they were from Chicago or something, I would buy it. This is hard New York, like, is what I'm hearing. And I had a friend who is from New York watch this, and she was like, "Is this movie set in New York?" And I was like, "No, it's in the middle of America." And so it's I don't know, it's just strange to me. Again, it's like they're all in a different movie. But hey, for the first 30 minutes, they are in a different movie because
yes, they are.
If you took out the words Michael Myers and that theme song, this is not even a Halloween movie. This is, it's a movie about people who've had a lot of, it's a random horror movie about people who've had bad stuff happen to them. And will they go bad? Will they break bad? That's what this is all about.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. And like you say here, Corey's mom. Wow. What is up with that character right there?
Dude.
Totally like nuts. And the dad, is it the dad? Oh, is that her uncle?
That's his uncle and her brother is the way I take it.
So they're all living together. And he was one of my favorite characters because
I love that guy. He watches action movies with his headphones on. Yeah.
Yeah, he just drop a line like, whatever. Just don't tell your mom about this or whatever, right? And
he gives him the motorcycle, and
then his sister was nuts, right?
Yeah,
he knew his sister was nuts, and so every time he would witness her doing some stupid shit, he just give Corey a line, and it was like, okay, I like this guy a lot.
Yeah.
But man, terrible family life, terrible accident that pretty much ruined his whole life. I mean, you're setting this guy up to be the perfect fodder for them to pass Michael Myers' legacy. If you're truly going to end Michael Myers and want to continue the Halloween movies, you need a new villain, right?
Yeah, or you're going to pick up on that old thread that evil can be anything. And Laura even says that, like, evil can transfer anywhere. I'm like, oh, this is brilliant. Yes, let's finally do that. And then they don't do it.
And then they don't. That drove me nuts. Like, I'm like, this is going so well. They're going to make a new Michael Myers, a new bad guy here with Corey, because he goes down this massive dark path in this movie and turns into really someone who loves killing people like Michael Myers does, right?
Right.
Beats up Michael Myers, takes his mask. They got the perfect thing going here to really end Michael and start Corey.
Right. But they don't
blow it up.
Because they pull back from it. Because it's like, it's the most frustrating thing about these three movies is they go right up to the line of doing something cool, and then they're just like, no, And like, you can do that with an audience if you're teasing us for something that you eventually pay off. It's actually a pretty good filmmaking trick.
Yeah.
But when you never pay it off,
Right.
Imagine if Def Leppard started playing their biggest hit, Photograph. But when the chorus came, they just cut back to the verse. And they just kept cutting back. And they just never did it. I'm like, man, no, you would throw things at those guys. Like, no, you don't do that. Like, you cannot keep teasing it and never give it out. And that's what's so weird. Again, it's like everybody's in a different movie here. Allison is in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Corey's also in Halloween, Rob Zombie, because he's got that terrible home life. All I needed was William Forsythe over there going, bitch, if you think I ain't making a mental list of all your shit. You know, I mean, he would fit in this movie.
Oh, man.
You've got the punks from New York driving to LeBaron and I don't know, buying beer at the store. You got all this crazy stuff. Laurie still is going between this whole, like, I'll pick this poor kid up at the, gas station and we'll cut some tires together, but then all of a sudden I'm going to be worried about him after I gave him a hunting knife. I'm like, lady, which is it?
Oh,
I'm going to act like this Linda Hamilton Terminator 2 woman, and then I'm going to sheepishly kind of walk around the grocery store and meet cute with Joy Luck Club in the grocery store.
But you got to remember, she was totally into Corey until the scene where he's sitting outside her house, hiding
he's doing the whole behind the bushes thing.
Exactly the same as Michael Myers did back in the day to her.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's when she started thinking, okay, what's going on, right? Because she sees the Michael Myers character sitting there, goes outside, and then it's him all of a sudden sneaking up behind her. That's when it all turned for Laurie on Corey, right? Before that, she was all into this kid, helping him out. She knows what it's like to have the stigma in the town of being that, outcast and the laughing stock and whatever else. She's going to help him out.
Yeah.
And then that happens and she's like, oh shit, what's going on?
Well, yeah. And I've got a question about that later when she has that scene in the house. We'll get to that in a minute, but I do have a question about that. But there's something else going on in this movie that I don't think I completely understand what they're trying to get at here. Okay. Cause every one of these movies has had a different issue that I wanted to try to foist into this Halloween horror movie thing or whatever. And this one is now we're going to blame Laurie for all this shit. So she comes out of the grocery store after having, meet cute with Hawkins again. And this lady starts yelling at her in the parking lot, like, what'd you buy? Why are you laughing? What are you having a good time? And she points back, and the lady who got the fluorescent tube through her throat in the last movie was dead as a doornail. No, she lived. She just can't talk now. And you don't know her name. And you provoked that man until he went nuts on everybody. I'm like, what? And the DJ runs this line later. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, if they're trying to say, like, this is what victim blaming does, I'm like, no, this is not exactly how that goes. And that's also dumb to do, but this doesn't make any sense. Like, since when would the town be like, no, it's your fault. You tortured that poor crazy man who murdered all those people. I'm like, no, that's no one who saw any of that could take that away from it.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that there'll be some people who are upset with her because she's still living in the town and he keeps coming back for her. But the way that they played it off was really stupid, done really dumb. And again, how the hell did she survive the light tube through the throat? That makes no sense. But even still, say she does, right? And whatever. Why is this lady so pissed off at her? She didn't put the light tube through the throat. You can't blame her for a killer being on the loose. You could blame her for staying in town and bringing him in, but that's about it.
I'm like, all she did was hermit out in the woods for years. Nobody even knew what she was doing. And then when he showed back up, she marched in like the cavalry and tried to kill him.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, it's like, hey, props to you. Thanks. Shoot him better next time. Whatever. And it's also we got to remember, it's not like he's been back a lot. He's only been back the one day. Like, that's the one thing you got to remember is that all those last two movies were one day, and it was a hell of a day. But I don't know. I just am blown away by that. Now, I get like the mom getting mad at Corey when he's dancing with Allison in the club, which, by the way, is like a 5-minute just dance break in the middle of this movie for no reason.
Yeah, that was bizarre.
Very weird. But I guess what we're trying to parallel is the things that are going on with him and Laurie, right? And you're also seeing him being pushed over the edge or whatever. So I get like the mom of the kid that died being mad at him and going, sure. I mean, is it fair? No, but it's also justified. Like, I understand why she would react like that to seeing him like that, and he wouldn't know what to do. And I actually thought that played really well. I thought his fight with Allison, after all that really worked.
Yes.
It's really the only time Andy Madajek gets to do anything in the movie is in that scene. And I get that, but like the DJ later on when they're making out on the radio station is like, I know who you are, and you're talking to me, but your grandmother drove that guy till he started killing everybody. I'm like, is this like there's two characters, by the way, who are spewing out lies, like straight lies about people, and then they're also foisting things into this poor kid. I'm like, I don't get it. I mean, I get why people would say that about Corey, but I don't know, man. It just seemed a little over the top. Like they went out of their way to pay off the line about when Laurie calls him the psycho in the freak show. And Corey talks about that later. It's like they really wanted to beat you over the head with that in the second act of this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. That DJ just did nothing for me. Like I thought
he was in a different movie.
Yeah, I just thought it was cool when they kept turning the radio on and he's talking about Halloween stuff and different things that happen and all that. Great. It's like a true crime podcast, right?
Sure.
Listen to it over again. But everybody freaking listens to this one guy all the time. I mean, that's what it seemed like anyway. And then when he comes out, you would think that he'd be like, oh, sweet. It's Laurie Strode's granddaughter. And he'd be all worshiping her, right? Because that's how he acted on the show. Instead, he insults her.
Right. No, you bring him on the air, man. Like, yeah, what a jerk. I mean, no, again, he was from a Rob Zombie movie and he got killed in a Rob Zombie way. We'll talk about his kill in a minute. But we got to talk about when we finally going to bring Michael into the movie now, 40 minutes into this. Corey's walking back after all this and his bullies show up after he slashed their tires and all this shit. And they, he gets in a fight and they throw him over the ledge and he lives, or whatever. And so they all drive off. So I'm just sitting there going like, all of you are going to die in some horrible way, but I'm not sure yet. But then we see Corey being drug off into the sewer. And again, I'm in a Stephen King mode. I'm like, oh, it's it. Like they're going to float down there, and he wakes up and there's Michael. And I'm like, why? Like, I understand you have to explain that he has to go somewhere, but to draw from your inspiration, what was really good about Halloween Resurrection when Michael was just living off the rats under the basement. Like, what? Dude, I need you to explain to me what happens when he grabs Corey by the throat and they look at each other in the eyes and there's that whole sequence.
I thought that was cool. Actually, I thought that was a good scene because that made he's going to kill this kid, right? But as he's choking him out, he sees inside of his soul everything that has happened to him, right? He's seeing all the things that he's done, and all of a sudden he's like, okay, you're just like me, and lets him go.
Okay, see, I didn't read it that way. That's interesting. Okay.
Everything he saw was he saw him kick the door, kill the kid, do all this other shit that he's been doing, and he thought, okay, this guy's just like me, lets him go. And that's where I think that they were doing the transfer, right? Mm-hmm. Michael Myers is transferring his entity over now to Corey, especially based on what happened. Yeah, what happens after the fact.
Well,
but that's how I took it, and I thought that was actually really well done. Well,
see, if they had paid that through, I'm with you. And if this had become Corey becomes Michael, I'm with you. Yes. But watching that again, and I watched it a couple more times, I'm like, I kind of feel like maybe that's Corey's life flashing before his eyes. And it's just unlike Happy Memories or whatever. It's just the most traumatic shit that's happened to him in the last few years. And maybe that's what happened. I don't know. But he gets out of that. And that's when the Vagrant comes up to him, which is like, convenient. This is your first kill. It's your Glass Joe. It's easy. Just don't screw it up. And he kills him. And I noticed something the second time watching it, though, that I didn't catch the first time. The guy pulls the knife on him and Corey turns and he stabs him with it, but then he keeps stabbing him with it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, I didn't say. And then he throws the knife away. And the first thing in my head is like, man, Stabler would be like on you, like white on rice. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. You only talk like you're in New York. The cops here are not that. No, they don't care. So nobody's going to care when they find that guy's body. And they never do, for all we know. So, but there's a scene that's later on where Laurie's in the bar. She's not drinking. She's just hanging out with Lindsay. And it just so happens the dad, Roger, I think is his name, of Jeremy, is in the back shooting pool. And so convenient, by the way. So Lindsay takes Laurie over and he begins to tell this whole thing about how like, I felt like the whole town kind of stole my trauma from me and all this. And I kind of get it. I'm like, yeah, I kind of feel bad for this guy. Like he actually was much more like believable than the mom doing the meme freak out, which was obviously just played for a joke. And I love the thing he talks about. Like I saw this kid yesterday and I was just going to stop and finally go like, no, man, it's okay. But when I looked at him, he just was gone. And I was like, Now see, if they had paid off on that shit, that would be awesome. That we're going somewhere. And they've got the perfect guy to do it. I don't know who Rowan Campbell is, by the way. I don't watch this new Hardy Boys show he's on or whatever, but he's freaking great as a bad guy. I'm like, man, cast this guy as the evil more often. He can do it. He's got so much personality. But geez, they just strip it from him.
And it's too bad because as we're going through this movie and everything comes in and he becomes more sinister and does more dastardly things throughout this movie as we go forward, especially when he kills the high schoolers that are tormenting him.
Man, yeah.
Holy crap, right?
Rob Zombie kills this fucker.
Oh, yeah.
It's Christine, too. He runs him over. It's very much that. So.
Well, she's still alive under there.
And then, and he stomps her out. He blowtorches that one kid in the face. I mean, yeah. So I just hate that the uncle had to get shot as part of that. That sucks.
Agreed. But they're doing such a great job of really building him up as the new Michael Myers. Right. And to go and blow that, just completely blow that at the end. I was watching, I'm like, yeah. And all of a sudden and I'm like, what the fuck?
I'm going to say something that only a limited part of our audience is going to get, but I know you'll understand it. They Black Scorpioned this. They totally Black Scorpioned this. Set up this incredible thing, and then
payoff was crap. Yeah.
It was an old man in the end who didn't need to be there. but we really let's talk about how it all goes down here. So there's a deputy that used to date Allison, even though he's old enough to have been her father. He looked like
shit, right?
I mean, look, Haddonfield, maybe there's not a lot of options. I don't know. But
I mean, she's on a dark path, so she could have been into that.
Could have been. You never know, clearly. But anyway, so he tries to still, pick her up when her and Corey are on a makeup date, I guess, at the local town restaurant or whatever. And they're talking and, he keeps interrupting me. Corey Yonka goes off on him and they have this whole bit like, let's burn the town down. I'll light the match. I'm like, this sounds like some Sid Vicious shit right here. Like, I'm not talking about the sex pistol. I'm talking about the wrestler. I'm like, we're going down some punk roads now. But he goes on and he follows Corey because Corey goes back to Michael, but it's almost like Corey is leading him to Michael.
He was completely leading him. He watched it. He saw him following him and decided to take him right to Michael Myers. And he totally does. He gets him to go into that tent, find the dead old man, and then drags him right into that the sewer. Right.
But here's the thing. Yeah. He says, "Show me how to do it." And Michael pulls that old knife out of the rock and he kills him. And when he's doing it, man, like what is going on with that whole like Hulk up thing? Like what the fuck is that?
Killing is Michael's energy, right?
They said that in the last movie. Like every time he kills, he transcends or something.
Well, and it always has seemed to be part of it, his mystique, right? Once he kills, he becomes stronger. Every time he kills, he's a little stronger, hence why he's never freaking died, right? And so he's been dormant for what we're saying, 4 years now?
4 years.
Right. So he finally gets that knife and kills someone. That brings him back, right?
But here's the thing. The Vagrant guy says that he drags people in there all the time and they don't come out. How come he let you live? So he's been killing people.
Good point.
Just people nobody would miss. So... Yeah, here's the thing though. Yeah, if that was the case, then that whole hulking up is not necessary. It's very weird because here's the thing, and I feel bad for James D. Courtney because he's been asked to play Michael Myers 3 times in a row now, which is a record. Nobody gets to do it more than once. George Wilbur did it twice, and he only did it for part of Part 6. So, like, he was asked to play 3 very different people. Yes. Like the first time he was asked to play like Michael Myers 40 years later from the first one. So he just did that and pretty good. And then the second time he was asked to play Jason Frankenstein, and Goldberg, just destroy everything in front of you, very quickly and breathe heavy. And then
Goldberg and Santa Claus.
Yeah, exactly. Then in this one, he's asked to play Grandpa from Texas Chainsaw Massacre who can't hold the fucking hammer anymore. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, you can't have it all ways, movie. Like, I can't go there. Like, this is where it starts to fall apart for me. I'm like, no. He's either the embodiment of pure evil, and every time he kills, he just transcends to more and more. So you don't backward transcend. Hellraiser taught me this. Once you cross a threshold, you don't go back. You just keep going forward. So, like, he wasn't, maybe he was a little rusty, but he didn't get. When did Michael Myers get to be an old man and we start acting like he was an old man? That's what kills me.
Well, I mean, he was an old man when he was in the jail, right?
Right. I mean, he's in his 60s. But, yeah.
But the thing is, like, maybe that was his not necessarily hulking up. Maybe it was the thrill he gets from the kill, and he's showing Corey how thrilling it is to do and what joy he gets from it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's fair, but that's what I'm saying. There's nothing to explain, and that's why this movie is starting to fail, because you don't have to lay it all out, but you can't do that shit and then just nothing happen. Like, okay, for all of its foibles, and I keep going back to Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, but it's a divisive movie too. There's that scene where Laurie's trying to eat, pineapple pizza or whatever, and Michael's eating a dog at the same time, and she tastes it. It makes her sick. And it was kind of dumb, right? But they did that shit with Daniel Harris's character in 4, 5, and 6 too, or at least 5, right? Like, she can tell when he's killing. Like, they've played with this before, and both of those instances work so much better than what they're doing with this, because I don't understand what happens here with Corey, and I gotta get your take on this. So when he goes to kill the doctor and the slutty nurse, which. There's another problem. When you're sleeping with somebody, do you still call them by their official title? Maybe you can stop calling him Dr. Mathis or whatever.
It depends on how they like it, right?
I mean, maybe that's their king. I
likes that
judge.
power.
I shouldn't judge. You are correct. But anyway, when he kills that doctor,
she doesn't even know what his name is other than Doctor whatever.
Did you know who? It took me 3 watchings to figure out her name was Deb. I didn't know, but whatever. She's just funny redheaded girl. That's all I knew she was going to die. Like, you knew, like, immediately you're going to die. But Corey kills the doctor, and what I do like about this is that he's wearing he's got this like scarecrow mask from Wizard of Oz. Yeah, it's kind of clown, and I kind of wonder like why maybe they didn't do the clown thing because it would have been too on the nose. I kind of like the scarecrow mask, but he's also, I noticed this when he's working at the junkyard, he's wearing the overalls. He's wearing the mechanic's overalls. I'm like, he is Michael Myers, for God's sakes, and they're letting him kill. And when he goes after her, like, he can't just walk through a door. Like, he's beating the shit out of the glass and stuff. And I'm like, this is cool. And then all of a sudden, Michael comes out of the shadows on her. Because I guess, like, Corey tagged him in or whatever at that point.
Well, they're working together now, right? Again, they're setting this up perfectly for him to be the apprentice and become the new Michael Myers. And it's working out excellent. Like, you're watching this like, yes. And then, they fuck it up. But, But at this point, you're like, this is awesome.
But yeah. At this point, like, I'm on board for this because he slaughters them, and after that, he goes and he sleeps with Allison. Like, his first thing is, I'm going to go to my girlfriend's house. I'm going to, like, kiss her hard, and then I'm going to back away. And she's like upstairs with me, and Grandma pulls up. And I, like, at one point, I thought Jamie Lee Curtis was like going to fist bump, because they play it though. The angle though is the same as the first Halloween movie, which she wasn't there for, but where the two are going up the stairs to be killed, and Michael's standing, and he's still standing in the shadows watching all this shit go down. And I'm like, y'all are paying off so much stuff with this, but it just leads to nothing. Like, and I read something where David Gordon Green said, we had this whole like love scene that we shot and it just didn't work. And I was like, I mean, how did it not work? Those two had a ton of chemistry. Like, Rowan Campbell and Andy Matichak, I'm not saying they're dating or anything, but like, they look like they really like could at least make it work on screen. I almost needed to see. I didn't need to see. I didn't need to be grotesque or anything. I need 50 Shades of Halloween, but I could have bought for them rolling around a little bit in the covers, a little Buffy or something like that. Like, I mean, it would have made sense instead of just waking up the next day and all of a sudden he's making decisions about his life, what he's going to do, and that we got to get out of there. And I got to ask you what happens here in the house when later on he wakes up and the couple's house has been abandoned where the kid died, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody's bought that gorgeous house again, and the bloodstain's still on the wood floor, and he's sleeping on top of it. It's very weird. But you hear this knocking in the background, and he wakes up, and Laurie's there, and she's like, she goes from one extreme to another. She's like, I'm worried about you, and like, you're no good for my granddaughter. Stay away. And I read that as that's in his head. He's having a conversation in his head. But my wife watched it and said, no, I think she's really there.
I do too. I'm with your wife on this one. I think she's really there. And I think this happens after she sees him peering at her through the window.
Right.
This happens after he sneaks up on her. Right.
Yeah.
So she's already clicking, going, okay, something's off with this kid now. And she's putting the pieces together. And I don't know if she's following him and seeing things that he's doing and getting into it, but she basically goes to confront him, say, look, I'm watching you. I don't want you near my daughter. You're doing shit that's wrong. You're doing stuff that's scary. You need to get your shit together. Right. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was a really good scene with her kind of basically saying, okay, I think this is going to be my next enemy.
Well, what I like is what he says to her. Is like, you've never felt the power of the dark side, basically. Like, look into his eyes this next time. And that kind of goes back to your theory about the transferring thing. And again, I'm going like, man, if they're playing with that, boy, what a left turn. But I'm here for that. Like, yes, Michael Myers has never had a voice. Yeah. And now he's got one. And I'm like, man, you guys, it took you 3 movies to get to it, but you finally did the thing nobody's been able to do this entire 44 fucking years of a movie series. You finally gave this guy a voice with an actor who can pull it off too. It is hard to do this shit. And I don't know this dude from nothing, but he's good. Like, he is really good in this. And what happens next is just boggling to me. So he goes and beats the shit out of Michael in the sewer. Let's back that up for a minute. Michael Myers has murdered probably 100 people.
Oh, more than that. 100.
No.
Last movie
Michael
alone.
Myers beat 30 people to death in the street 4 years ago. But now I'm supposed to believe this skinny ass kid can drop him with one shot to the ribs and take the mask and go off. And Michael does his sit up thing, whatever. And he puts on the mask, and all of a sudden he becomes freakishly strong. So he massacres the bullies in the junkyard. We kind of gloss over that. We got to talk about that. Like, he kills the one kid with a drumstick through the face. That's gory as hell. He runs over the one girl, Christine style, with the car. He kills the one girl with a wrench, beats her to death with it, and then blow torches the other kid's face off before curb stomping the other girl into mush. Holy shit. And I'm like, did the mask give him special powers or something?
Again, that's always been kind of the intrigue of the Michael Myers character, is that mask. When he gets the mask, they played this up in the prison scene, right?
Yeah.
When he's given that mask again, and all of a sudden he can
feel it
as hell. So something with the mask is the power source, right? That's kind of where they've always kind of gone. Mm-hmm. And he never wants anyone to take that mask off. Every time someone tries, he fights them to the death, right? Yeah. Because something about that. It's not about hiding his face, I don't think, because everyone knows what he looks like. He was a murderer before they knew his face, right? Mm-hmm. So it's something with the mask that gives him that power, and this is now transferring that power to Corey, who completely obliterates everyone with it. And when he ran over the girl, right? Mm-hmm. She was climbing off the fence, and he just runs into the fence and runs her over, and she's still alive that whole time and watches him kill everyone else before coming back to her and just finishing her off.
Yeah,
that's brutal shit, right there.
It was, man. Look, it was Rob Zombie territory again, and
absolutely.
I'm like, but you know what? This movie had earned that escalation. I felt like if they were going with the transference thing, I'm like, if we're going to go through with this, first off, didn't see that coming, but hey, I'm here. Yes, bring me to that place, because I can watch any of the rest of these movies to go down whatever little adventure path I want. I'm on this train now. This is fun. This is finally you're doing cool shit. Since the first hour of the first movie in 2018, you haven't done anything really cool until now. And they're doing it. And even when he goes to kill the useless DJ, the way he overkills him and cuts his fucking tongue off and it skips the record, like I laughed, man. I thought that was awesome.
That was a good one. Yeah, that was a good one. And the fact that
Allison's hearing that on the radio and like her answer is not find another station. It's like, I'll just shut it off.
Oh, right. That was the funny part. Like,
Also, I mean, I know she has an old beat up car, but like she would be listening to Spotify like through like a speaker wire.
Well, again, everybody in that town listens to the same damn radio station. Like it's the only thing they can listen to, and it's always this guy on 24/7. It seems
right.
He's always on there talking about different like scary things that happen.
This is a conceit, though. I think they are homaging something from The Fog. Like, The Fog kind of has the same sort of conceit in both versions of itself. Like, there's one radio station in the small, like, little island town or whatever, and the one person talking all the time. Oh, it's kind of a joke, but I didn't care for the DJ. Again, he was in a Rob Zombie movie. Like, I don't know what, or like Hustle and Flow 2 or something. I don't know where he came from. He is not part of this universe, but he was clearly there. I'm like, well, he's going to die horribly. Let's just see how, and I don't know what happened to the girl. Like there's like the secretary in the front of the radio station who apparently is like, she's on like right Joe Bob's thing. Yeah, I know. But like, I didn't really see that go down. Like I thought like,
well, I don't think they wanted you to, because what they were doing is they showed you her get attacked, right? Yeah. And then they focused on the DJ not being hearing or seeing it going on.
Oh, because he's in the soundproof.
So they didn't really show you the kill. They just showed you that the DJ had no clue what was going on until all of a sudden someone comes in and just beats him up and kills him and cuts his tongue off.
I mean, it's goofy and fake as that was looking. I was like, I kind of laughed. I was like, oh, okay, that's funny. Like we're not supposed to, but we're there, and I'm here for this idea again. And now, this is really going to blow the whole thing now. Screw it up.
But here's the thing with the DJ, right? Mm-hmm. I liked him being on the radio talking about all this stuff that happened. It's a great little overview of things that are going on, and it's a good little thing to get your mind going on the film. They could have done all of that and then had the kill the way it was without having the piece where he confronts the two. That wasn't needed in the movie, mm-hmm. right? That ruined his character completely. For me, if he were just the DJ and they just went to the DJ station and killed him for random kill, right? Because mm-hmm. we do that, it would have been better. Unfortunately, they didn't do it that way. But even so, I like the DJ as a whole until that one point.
I mean, he served his purpose to be part of the fodder for Corey to become Michael. And mm-hmm. then they're going to pull away from this because Corey is coming for Laurie, and she knows this instinctively. She is aware. Yep. She's like the mom in the Jaws series all of a sudden. She knows when the shark's coming. And so she calls in a fake suicide report to get the cops on the way because she knows Haddonfield's police response time is really slow. So she's waiting. She's lighting pumpkins. She's loading the gun. And I do love when she shoots and like you see the splatter on the wall and you realize it's a pumpkin later. And he opens the door. It's Corey in the Michael mask and everything. Opens the door and she's like, "You really think I was gonna fucking kill myself?" And then she shoots him twice. I'm like, that was actually kind of cool. But what she does next?
Question for you at this point. Did she know that it was Corey coming in at that point, or did she think it was Michael coming in?
I think she knew it was Corey. I think she knew he was coming from. Well, to go to your point again, and if I'm to follow you, and you've convinced me now because Rachel told me that if she really was confronting him at that house and she's been following him around, like she knows, like she's ready for it. I think she's like, just bring it, because I don't think she knows. She doesn't know Michael is still around.
She has no idea Michael's been around. Absolutely
no idea that he's still there.
Nobody has seen him.
Yeah, so she doesn't. All she knows is that this kid came up with this mask somehow, so he's here, so he wants to play. Fine, but what she does next makes no sense to me at all. You have the upper hand, all right. You empty your gun into the wall because you only had 5 shots anyway. You blew one in the pumpkin. You put 2 in his left shoulder, and then you put 2 in your wall for reasons. So you can empty the gun and just taunt him like, "You came here to kill me. Do it already," which was in one of the trailers. And I thought, well, that's a badass line. I'm down for Laurie hitting the dark side here. And then Corey's like, no, I'm going to be extra Lifetime movie now. If I can't have her, no one can. And he stabs himself in the fucking throat as if he knows now she's going to pick up this knife out.
Damn thing.
Yes. Yeah. As if he knew he's heard Allison pulling up because of her clunker car. That's what he starts laughing at. So he stabs himself going, okay, maybe she'll grab the knife and pull it out right as she walks in the door and it'll fuck everything up. Like, that's your grand plan? No, that's when I literally looked at this screen. And I was like, man, fuck this movie. I'm so mad now.
This movie had me the whole way up until that point. I was down for everything. I'm like, okay, this is really a Michael Myers movie, but it's good. I'm with it. I like what they're doing here. And then they took everything that they built for the last, 2 hours, whatever, and flushed it down the toilet. Yeah, with that one scene.
Yeah, it's the Black Scorpion again, man, from WCW. I'm telling you, it's exactly that. Like Corey had flashes before his eyes. That's what flashed before mine. I watched all that. I felt like Ralphie in A Christmas Story when he finally does the Little Orphan Annie thing. He's like, drink more Ovaltine. He's like, son of a bitch, it's a commercial. I felt the same way. I was like, I went back into the horror world wiser. At the end of that. I mean, and as if on cue, of course, Allison walks in only to go, what did you do? And walk out. Like, she's seen enough shit in her life to maybe go like, please explain to me what is going, why does he have the mask? What? Like for a minute, but she's like, no, I'm out. So she's going to leave. But right around the corner is old buddy Michael, who's like, oh, that's where you ran off to with my property, son.
Yes. Thank you for bringing me to my old nemesis.
And he's like, well, I'll kill her too. So he gets the mask, puts it on, and of course, Corey is still alive, despite the juggler just spewing blood at this point. So Michael can break his neck. Sure. Okay. So, but part of me is like, oh, maybe he transferred. But at that point, I had given him like, no, y'all have given up on the transfer of evil thing. Like, currently that's not happening anymore. So we're going to get our 20-minute showdown here, which is pretty well what we get, about 15 minutes in the house. And they do some flashbacks and cutbacks and all this other shit. And they go at each other. And Laurie stabs him, through the hands with the knife. Like, we see him try to cut off her fingers in the disposal and all this shit. And I kind of thought it would have been cool if he got a couple of them. I'm like, right? Yeah. Like when she does that backwards headbutt on him, I'm like, that old lady would have died, man. You can't do that shit. Like, that's so dumb.
Oh no, Jay, she is a badass.
Yeah. Okay. But she's
been training her whole life for this.
And she just spent 4 years not training. She's been making pumpkin pie and talking about flashing the world and shit like that. Like, just drinking at the bar, whatever. But I'm not saying she got soft, but she's not Linda Hamilton in T2 anymore, but whatever. So, or T5, whatever one she's been in now. But so she stabs him through. She puts the fridge on him to pin him down. I'm like, well, I guess that'll work. And the fact that she goes through this whole painstaking thing at the end to like, I used to think you were this and that, but you're just an old man who's about to stop breathing. And I was like, is that it? And then she just cuts his throat. And he's, he gets a hand free to choke her. And there's some, and I don't know, was she wanting him to kill her? She's like, do it. I'm like, was she supposed to die?
Here's the thing, Jay. I swear in the trailer, there's a line where she says, I believe that the only way Michael Myers dies is if I die too.
Yeah.
I don't recall seeing that in the movie.
No, it's not. It's just in the trailer. You're right.
Yeah. And so I'm like, it would have made much more sense if we got to hear that in the movie.
Yeah.
But we never did. And instead, we get this long, abbreviated thing where she slices his neck, and then she cuts both wrists so that he...
After Allison comes in to pin his arm back down to go, I'm not going to let this happen to you. I'm like, well, where did you come from? Because you left the movie a little bit ago.
Right?
You circle the block and go, I don't know, maybe my boyfriend was kind of crazy. I don't know. Maybe I should trust grandma. I mean, I don't know what happened there.
That was kind of odd. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that would have worked a little better if Laurie said, like, this only works if we both die. And then Allison says, no, I'm not going to let this happen to you. Like, no, you're going to live.
Much better.
Yeah. And then they bleed him out. And then but that is not the end. I'm like, if that's how Michael Myers is going to go down, bleeding out in the kitchen, like an old crumpled old man, I'm like, I guess. I mean, it's kind of weak. It is lame.
Yeah.
It's a very much a like
He
schoolboy
survived 2
roll up.
fires.
Yeah, this is schoolboy roll up finish. I'm like,
Yeah.
they couldn't do better than that, but okay. And I mean, yeah, 2 fires, multiple gunshots, beat down in the street, but in the end, it's a Frigidaire and a couple of Guy Fieri knives, and that's all it takes, you know. And but they strap him to her beat up old ass car. And just start, I guess they just put it out on Twitter or whatever, like everybody meet at the junkyard. And there's supposed to be like this parade of characters that you've seen. Like they bring back the little kid whose parents got slaughtered, you know, who was the babysit, but you can't recognize him anymore because he didn't look like he did 5 years ago. And, you know, they bring all these people back. You don't know who any of these people are because they don't call any of them out. They bring the woman in the wheelchair out because I guess she wants to see this now. So Laurie can throw that.
Forgives Laurie because the evil man's dead, right?
Right, because she can throw that mannequin in the industrial shredder. That was some cheap ass looking shit too, man. I'm like, that looked bad.
But you know what? If you got to get rid of a character, that's a good way to get rid of them without them being able to come back.
Yeah, he's obliterated now. Yeah,
he's ground beef, right? Ground beef. At this point.
He's Adams at this point. There's nothing left. But let me ask you this: why is not the last thing her taking that damn mask and throwing it in there with him? She leaves it on her fucking coffee table, Brian. Like, what?
Guess she needed a souvenir. I don't know, man. Maybe we'll get Allison to become the next Michael Myers.
No, she left town wisely, like she should have years ago.
She left town now, but that doesn't mean she don't come back, get that mask, and go on a tear.
That was very much like leaving Sunnydale. Hope you come again soon, by the way.
I'm out of here, yeah.
I mean, really, like this movie just sort of thumps. And then Laurie starts decorating for Thanksgiving because I guess, well, all right. I mean, I love how the cops all show up like, this isn't how we do it. And the sheriff's like, it is how we do it tonight. And I'm like, man, what of y'all needed to say evil dies tonight? Like, come on. Like, no, it really does now. Pay that off.
This time evil dies for good.
Yeah, but Hawkins brings over some vegetables and talks about, I don't know, seeing some cherry blossoms in Japan or some nonsense. And again, the end of the Joy Luck Club too is on the porch there. And we go to empty rooms in her house and there's that friggin' mask out in the daylight as she's finished her memoir or whatever. And don't fear the Reaper. I mean, Brian, I'm confused. Like I watched the end of this and I'm going, what the hell just happened? This movie had something and man, it just blew it. The third act is, they talk about never sticking the landing, dude. This group can never finish a damn movie. The first one ends kind of perfunctory because they realized they wanted to make sequels. Then the second one is the middle chapter, so it's got nowhere to go. So it just ends on some weird shit. But they never pay off like the visages of the little kid in the mirror, and he sees himself looking back. And how did the daughter get killed? We never know. Like poor Karen, Judy Greer's a damn screensaver wallpaper on an iPhone. That's all she is. And she's a first grade thing on the wall. That's all I'm like, we just gloss over all that to set up the coolest handoff in history, only to just piss it all away. And then if they had taken that last showdown, those last 20 minutes, and stuck it on the end of that first movie, if that had been how that ended and she meat grinded him, I'd be like, all right, you know what? Yeah, there you go. That's the way to come back for one last shot and do it. But they stretched the shit out only to come to this. Oh man, it's just a bummer.
It is. It really is. I mean, they ruined the perfect opportunity to end Michael Myers and start anew. And just start anew. They ruined it. You could have killed Laurie. You could have killed Michael. And we could have just had Corey run away and nobody would have known what happened. And he become the new boogeyman. Instead, they murder him after building him up to be the next Michael Myers. And we're left with that.
Yeah, we're left with nothing. We're left with an end. Yeah, it's a big, you know. Yeah. And where will it go? I mean, I said at the beginning, they'll make Halloween movies forever. They probably won't do this storyline again. I don't know, and I don't even really care to guess at this point.
Yeah. But they can't bring Michael Myers back in any of these movies. They need a new villain for Halloween, right? Yeah. Michael Myers is done. We've had 44 years of Michael Myers. We're done. It's over. Yeah. You had the guy. Maybe they couldn't sign him to a long-term deal.
Oh, this dude's on a TV show, man. Come on.
I don't know why they didn't. Why did they take that opportunity to just
it's to note that Blumhouse bought 3 movies. That's what they were in for. See, initially when they got a hold of this, I thought they bought the catalog, but no. They more or less rented it. from Dimension. And now it goes back to the Akats. And David Gordon Green's going to remake The Exorcist now and basically do with that what he's done with this, which I'm like, good luck, sure. But I'll be curious to see what that looks like. But they'll come up with something, but they can't pick up this. So I'll give them credit. They wanted an end. Well, as John Carpenter said, well, it's an end. I mean, it's there and it's interesting, but sheesh, man, it just seems like so much wasted potential. Because I'm with you. It's God. Well, I think we're definitely at the part of the podcast where it's time to give final thoughts, recommendations, popcorn ratings, Brian. So what are yours for Halloween Ends?
Oh man, I really, really loved this movie for the first hour and a half or so. How long is this movie, by the way?
It's an hour and 50 minutes long. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, exactly. About an hour and a half of this movie. I was all in. I'm like, okay, this really doesn't feel like a Halloween movie, but I'm digging what they're doing here. And the whole Michael Myers stuff, he's only on the screen for maybe 20 minutes of this movie, maybe a little longer. It seemed odd, but I was really going with it. And then that last 20 minutes of the movie just totally ruined it for me. This was large popcorn for me all the way. And then that.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how I want to rate this because again, like I said, most of this movie is really entertaining and really good and really fun. But that ending it's like watching a wrestling match that has you hook, line, and sinker, right? And then they go and they DQ finish it. And you're like, what was that? Right? Like, leaves you like just the sour taste in your mouth. That's what this is for me. I'm going to give it a medium popcorn because there's a lot of entertaining into it. But that ending, man, it just totally flushes this down the toilet.
Man, I'm with you. If they were going to pass this along and they wanted to make a movie about the transference of evil and all that kind of stuff, not even getting into their whole social meta commentary, which I think they just ham fist into this movie and it sucks as bad as the last two times they did it. They had something going and then they just flushed it. And I don't know when or where they decided to flush it, but it was a mistake. Like the thing to have done, if you really wanted to do this, if you talk about just blowing people's minds, if Michael Myers was never in the movie, what if Corey just found that mask laying around somewhere and just did all this came to that? What would that have been if he killed Laurie Strode and he's standing there on the porch like it's the cycle starting again and Allison's looking at him and we just boom straight to the credits and the music? What a kick ass!
That would have been great.
That'd have been awesome. And they totally screwed it up. Just lit it on fire. And it's disappointing because, man, there's definitely something here, but it's just not realized. It's not. And it's a shame, too, because, again, Roland Campbell gives a hell of a performance. I mean, he knows what he's in, and he is killing in it. Poor Andy Matichak gets nothing to do outside of one scene. Everybody else in this movie is just kind of wasted. I think what I feel real bad for is, again, James Jude Courtney, who's been a good Michael Myers. He had to have to play Michael Myers as the geriatric old man. Like, that is not what anybody needed or wanted. And it's just a disappointment. It's just a flat disappointment. And normally I do reserve the old medium popcorn rating for the thing that like aspires and then just fouls up somewhere along the way and doesn't get there. But dude, this small popcorn's itself. Like it sinks itself so low for me that I'm like, and just as an entire trilogy, my problem with all of these is that, again, you come up with these incredibly elaborate, interesting setups that you refuse to pay off in any way. And I don't know if it's somebody else making them, but I don't think it is. I mean, Blumhouse tends to be pretty hands off. And David Gordon Green said he had, there are no director's cuts. If you get like the unrated cut, it's just because there's more blood or whatever. Like this is his vision. They did not screw with this later on. And I know there's test audiences and all that stuff, but it ain't that different. And from what I've been able to read and gather. And I cannot imagine choosing to be so interesting for 2/3 and then go, nah. 3 times in a row they've done that to me. And that's the thing about these, man. Like, again, I'm not mad as a Halloween fan. It didn't ruin my childhood. I don't give a shit. Like, honestly, there's ever only been one really good movie. The rest of it, like, I just have to go along with it because I want to. Like, I know it's not great, but I have some fun with Halloween too. I can do H2O. I can do that 4, 5, 6 weirdness. Like, I can even have fun with the Rob Zombie movies if I'm in the right mood. I don't think I can ever really enjoy Resurrection. That's the one I can't really go with. But sorry, Busta, but that's just not for me. But even that movie, though, has some fun. The other thing is, I was going to say, outside of the zombie movies, which are kind of a hard watch, you got to be in the mood for them. The rest of those movies, there's so much fun to rewatch. There's just fun in them. And that's the thing about remaking these slasher movies now, man, that I think we've just lost somewhere in the cinema world is nobody wants to have fun anymore. They all want to be so friggin' self-serious. And it's like, and these movies in particular, like, they're incredibly well made. The artistry is great. All of that stuff. I mean, it's hard to make movies. I get all that. And they look amazing, but they're just not any friggin' fun. And I if they do another Halloween somewhere, and again, 4 or 5 years down the line, I'm sure they will. I just want it to be fun again. And I really, when they started down this path again, my only hope was like, please make this fun. Please make this fun. And I knew immediately they weren't going to, because Jamie Lee Curtis was not interested in that. She had thoughts and she wanted to say some things, hashtag things. Yeah. And so whatever. So we can do that. But they've even like softened on that so much now that like the message of this movie is, I don't know, don't blame victims, or I don't know what it is. I mean, it's so jackassed up, man, that it's just a real like pill to swallow. That's why I get that there's a generation of people who like these movies a lot and they're kind of their Halloween movies, and that's fine. It's like people who these last 3 Star Wars movies are your Star Wars movies. And I almost feel bad for you because I'm like, damn, you don't really know what the good stuff was. And it taints it for you because these are just so unsatisfying as a package together, man. Like I own 2 of them. I probably will complete the collection and own this one, but gosh, it'll take me a minute to have to go back and watch it. It's kind of like Rise of Skywalker. Like I really don't want to watch it
all
again.
The way up until just watch it all the way up until the point where Corey enters the house and be like, done.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Just skip to the very end. Yeah. I'm with you, man. They had me with Corey, and I cannot believe I'm saying that because I knew enough going in that like they're going to have this whole other character we've never met. Oh, I don't know if this is the right idea. And then I saw it happen and I was like, oh, this is brilliant. This is awesome. And then they just screw it all up. And it's so bad. So yeah, small popcorn to wrap that incredibly long close up. But sheesh, man. I mean, where can it go? You say no more Michael Myers. Like what do you think they'll do?
Yeah, you can't do Michael Myers. You have to now make a whole new story, right? Mm-hmm. Follow the formula, I guess you could say, and bring in new characters. I mean, go down the road a few years, start a whole new thing. Get out of Haddonfield, go somewhere else, begin something new.
Can I be bold and tell you what you do? You don't make movies anymore. You make a TV show.
TV show, yeah.
Like on Showtime, HBO, Hulu, one of those. You do like limited series stuff. And you do like what American Horror Story has done. You get a cast of actors who can pull off lots of roles, and you just put them in a horrific situation. And you do what Scream did when it was an MTV TV series for a couple of seasons. You're in the same world and vein of all of those movies, but you don't really care what the movie storyline is. You're going to do your thing.
Yeah.
Do that. That would be interesting. That would be fun. I would be down for that. I don't think you make a movie anymore. And I'm with you. I think the Michael Myers story is done. But truthfully, I hope they don't do anything else. I think 13 is the number, and just be done with it at this point, because
it's the right number to do it.
Yeah, I mean, finish it off, be gone, and I just don't think there's anywhere else. There's obviously nowhere to go in the storyline, but I don't think there's anywhere else to go with this. I think the TV idea, and again, you make it in the formula, but not about the same thing.
Yeah,
would be interesting. But geez, I don't know where else you go out of this, but. Yeah. But, as dissatisfying as this movie was to ultimately, live through or whatever, and I did watch it 3 times for this review. It's a lot of fun talking about it with you, as always, man. Tell folks what you got going on over at Brian's Vinyl Records, how they can follow you and everything.
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook, just Brian's Vinyl Records. I post what I'm listening to throughout the day. I got a YouTube channel also, Brian's Vinyl Records, where right now on a monthly basis, I'll go through what I've added to my collection, as they say, for vinyl records. There's a lot of fun stuff through there. So if you're into music into vinyl, check it out on any of those mediums and, interact there.
Absolutely. And folks, you can follow the show's social media at FilmstripPod. Go to filmstrippodcast.com. That'll take you to our Anchor distribution site where you'll find the podcast, Apple's, Google, Spotify. We're on all the places. Leave us a 5-star review if you can and share the show on your social media, as it helps us spread the word. We've been around for, nearly 12 years now. We've covered all of these movies and a bunch of other ones in our huge archives, 300 plus episodes. Lots of fun, always there for you. Until next time, for Brian, I'm Jay. Thank you for listening to Filmstrip.
Thank you for listening to Filmstrip. You can find more episodes on our website, filmstrippodcast.com. The Filmstrip theme music is produced and performed by Frozen Lake 121. All content used or discussed in these podcast episodes is the property of the respective owners and used under the Fair Use Act, Section 504, C2, Title 17.